Sources believe Kim Jong-il's secretive trip to China is aimed at garnering Beijing's support in the face of U.S. sanctions. Dr. Hwang Woo-seok asks for the public's forgiveness but won't back down from his claim that stem cells may have been switched. Iran requests South Korea's support amid growing tensions over Tehran's resumption of nuclear activity.
Hello and welcome to KBS World News Today. It's Thursday, January 12th. North Korean leader Kim Jong-il is reportedly visiting business hubs in China as he makes his way to Beijing. The reclusive Kim is believed to be staying in a provincial inland city.
The recent whereabouts of North Korean leader Kim Jong-il is slowly emerging from a shroud of secrecy. A source in Shanghai says Kim is apparently staying in an inland city after stopping by Shenyang. The source cited as evidence a North Korean airplane carrying Kim's entourage that landed in the city before returning to Pyongyang. Kim's itinerary is likely to include a stop in Shenzhen, a special economic zone in southern China. Skepticism is rising, however, over whether Kim did indeed visit Shanghai. A diplomatic source in China's premier commercial city cited no evidence that Kim was ever there and denied that he came to Shanghai. Another source suggested that the rumor of Kim touring Shanghai was circulated by Pyongyang to divert attention away from his real destination. Diplomatic sources have also downplayed the possibility that Kim is in China for a medical checkup, saying a head of state with absolute power does not necessarily disclose the state of his health to another country. Meanwhile, the American daily Washington Post said Kim's visit is intended to garner Chinese support to counter U.S. financial sanctions and other pressure.
A U.S.-North Korea row over the North's alleged counterfeiting has been complicating efforts to reconvene the six-way nuclear talks. But analysts say that a timetable for the talks' resumption could still emerge before the end of January.
U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Christopher Hill arrived in Seoul from Tokyo last night. He'll fly to Beijing after today's meeting with his South Korean counterpart, Deputy Foreign Minister Song Min-soon. Hill reiterated that U.S. financial sanctions against North Korea have nothing to do with the nuclear negotiations, but said he's willing to discuss the issue if it leads to the nuclear talks resumption.
We'll have to see what the Chinese have heard most recently from the DPRK side, and perhaps they have some very fresh news, so we have to find out.
Seoul's nuclear negotiator Song Min-soon met with Chinese officials 3 days ago. Meanwhile, Beijing, host of the six-way talks, has been contacting Pyongyang through a number of channels. Some say a timetable for the next round of talks could be made known before the month's end.
1월 중에는 다음 회담의 시기라든지 이렇게 나올 수 있을 것으로 이렇게 보고 노력을 하고 있습니다.
Seoul is still waiting on the results of a probe into a Macau bank suspected of laundering counterfeit bills for North Korea. In the meantime, it expects Beijing to play a pivotal role in reconvening the nuclear dialogue.
U.S. Ambassador to South Korea Alexander Vershbow on Thursday accused North Korea of counterfeiting and other crimes and suggested that the Pyongyang regime itself may be involved in the illicit activity. Vershbow added that a U.S. Treasury delegation will soon visit South Korea to discuss the matter before moving on to Macau, where it will probe allegations of a local bank's involvement in the North's counterfeiting activities. The president of Seoul National University has issued a public apology over the Hwang Woo-seok stem cell scandal. Members of Hwang's research team, however, are continuing their studies despite his loss of all official posts and the launch of a criminal probe. Calls are also rising for evaluating Hwang's other scientific achievements. Here's a look at the latest developments.
Seoul National University President Jong Eun-chan apologized Wednesday to the public for the irreparable damage that Hwang Woo-seok has inflicted on the domestic and global scientific communities.
논문 조작 사건은 진리 탐구를 본연의 사명으로 하는 대학 사회에서는 도저히 용납할 수 없는 학문적 범죄 행위입니다.
Jong pledged to sternly punish those who were involved in the fraud. Meanwhile, the government stripped all of Hwang's official titles after the investigative probe announced its damning final results, and also launched an audit on his research funds. Prosecutors have set up a task force to search Mitsumeri Women's Hospital in Seoul and trace the bank accounts of those involved. Defending the domestic scientific community, however, Chung also said the nation still has the valuable assets of a thesis verification process conducted by honest scientists and the investigative panel's truth-finding efforts. In a much-awaited news conference Thursday, Hwang apologized to the public and expressed his official stance on the panel's findings. He insisted that his team possesses the source technology for cloning stem cells and reiterated that his stem cells were switched with those of Mitsumeri Hospital.
2004년 2월과 9월경 미즈메디 병원의 자체 조사 결과는 미즈메디 병원의 누군가가 의 정기검사 당시 그 결과를 조작하지 않았다면 논리적으로 도저히 설명이 되지 않는 것입니다.
The global scientific community has recognized the validity of Hwang's technology for producing blastocysts, the last stage preceding the creation of stem cells. Moreover, the creation of parthenogenetic stem cells in 2004, whether accidental or intentional, was a major breakthrough in stem cell research.
세포가 난자만으로 유래가 되기 때문에 면역과 반응이 상당히 적습니다. 그래서 수정란 줄기세포에 비해서 임상적 활용 가능이 높은 줄기세포입니다.
Young scientists have suspended research on human embryonic stem cells due to a lack of ova and are instead conducting experiments on animals. They will soon announce their test results.
어차피 같은 식구들끼리 서로 격려하면서 앞으로 더 많은 연구들을 진행할 수 있도록 서로 위로하고 격려하도록 하겠습니다.
The government says more state support will go to researchers studying animal and stem cell cloning and blastocyst creation, the innocent victims of the stem cell scandal.
Iran's declaration that it will resume nuclear activities has sparked international calls for referral of the matter to the UN Security Council. A defiant Iran, however, isn't backing down and has even asked the South Korean government for its cooperation.
Mr. Speaker.
In a speech before the House of Commons, British Prime Minister Tony Blair vowed to obtain international cooperation to refer Iran's nuclear issue to the United Nations Security Council.
We have to take immediate steps to protect the security of the world, and that's why a potential reference to the Security Council is important.
Blair also stated that foreign ministers of European Union countries would discuss countermeasures at an emergency meeting on Thursday. The White House adds that the possibility of referring Iran's nuclear dispute to the Security Council this time is higher than ever.
If it continues down this road and the negotiations have run their course, then there is only one option to pursue, and that is referral to the Security Council.
U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice recently discussed the matter with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Rice stated that Washington and Moscow agreed to cooperate closely on the issue after the Russian government expressed its disappointment with Iran's resumption of nuclear activities. But despite warnings from the international community, Iran says it will continue the development and use of nuclear energy for peaceful purposes.
از فناوری صلح‌آمیز هسته‌ای بشوند بلکه وقتی ما دیروز
Faced with the possibility of being ostracized by the global community, Iran dispatched Deputy Foreign Minister Mahdi Safari to Korea to request Seoul's cooperation on the matter. Iran also stated that it has already lifted a virtual ban on South Korean imports.
이란이 국제 사회의 우려 표명과 관심에 좀 더 각별한 관심과 노력을 기울여달라 이런 점을 강조했습니다.
Seoul, however, taking caution not to scare Iran into putting an official ban on South Korean imports, reiterated its firm stance on denuclearization.
European health authorities, alarmed by the rash of bird flu infections in Turkey, have decided to extend special monitoring of wild birds and poultry through the end of this year. EU officials have also allotted an additional €2 million in funds for efficient testing for infection. The Monetary Board of the Bank of Korea has decided to freeze the call rate at the current 3.75%. The board said that the rate freeze was aimed at bolstering economic recovery following the won's sharp appreciation. There's been some executive shakeups at the nation's major conglomerates, including Samsung and Hyundai Kia Motor. Most of the personnel changes are aimed at improving R&D operations to bolster the company's overseas activities and market share.
The Samsung Group minimized its reshuffle of presidents to maintain management consistency while preparing for competition in overseas markets. The conglomerate posted the highest rate of promotions in the nation's history. Among the some 200 staff promoted, 44% have a technical background. To avoid the impression of a third-generation succession, Samsung Group Chairman Lee Gun-hee's only son and senior executive Jae Yong was passed over for a promotion. Targeting overseas markets where competition is fierce, the Hyundai Kia Motor Group is favoring top salesmen and has promoted many of its R&D personnel.
글로벌 경영 역량을 강화함으로써 세계적인 자동차 기업으로서 성장하기 위한 포석으로 볼 수 있습니다.
The LG Group has conducted a major generational shift, stressing performance and responsibility based on business principles, and also increased the number of women executives to 11.
미래를 준비하는 차원에서 성장 동력과 글로벌 및 R&D 역량을 강조한 인사입니다.
The Kumho Asiana Group has finished its personnel reshuffle after promoting 65 executives, and the Kolon Group has set up a strategy division for the Chinese market.
And here are today's news briefs. The Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry will tighten quarantine measures on imported plants at Incheon International Airport from today through month's end. The move comes ahead of an expected increase in imports and overseas travel during the Lunar New Year's holiday. South Korean and U.S. officials are sitting down to another session of talks on Seoul's possible resumption of American beef imports. The U.S. is pressing Seoul to permit rib imports, but Korean officials say they will not allow bones to be imported until the U.S. completely allays concerns about mad cow disease. The Korea Council for University Education will hold its 2006 General Meeting and National Chancellors Meeting to discuss corporate universities, university restructuring, and a private school law. The Council will convey its opinions to Education Minister Kim Jin-pyo. And here are the economic indicators for January 12th. And that's it for KBS World News Today. Thanks for watching.